Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online special request character build. Now today guys, I'm doing this for a person on the forums who was asking for some help on a starter tank that they were playing, and they really want to get into the whole tanking scene and they didn't know quite what to use, and pretty much a lot of people just directed them right to, you guessed it, the meta. And I have no problems with that. People can do that, but you have to understand, not everyone's going to have meta stuff right out the get-go. So showing them how to get started to get to that meta stuff is what needs to happen. So let's go ahead and get started. And before I get started, disclaimer, this is a roleplay, casual play build. And it's just called a Dragonknight tank starter character. So, let's get into it. So, the person plays an Argonian. Good choice. As you can see, Argonian Dragonknights are actually really good because they get extra healing received, they get some healing done, and some extra magicka and some extra health, which really plays well into it. So with this character, to play it normally, you're going to want to put 64 points into stamina. And this is even when you're tanking. The reason why at the beginning is this way you can do more damage output with your character overall. Because you're going to be doing a lot of physical damage. So you want to get the highest damage output possible that you can. Now remember, you're also wearing heavy armor. So heavy armor, the way you get resistances back is by getting hit. So you have to take damage, and you have to deal heavy attacks to get resources back more effectively. Okay? Now, to go over the stats, this is with just food. This is not having anything from Undaunted or CP. So we have 18k magicka, 25k health, 25k stamina. We do have a 710 mag recovery. Our health recovery we're not really worried about. Stam recovery is coming in kind of low, but that'll change with time. Now, spell damage, 1509, weapon damage, 1719, with a 10% spell critical, 15% weapon critical. It's low. Do not stress it, because you're starting out. New characters will be weaker than advanced characters, especially people who have been playing the game for a long time and have high CP and everything else. I'm also going to show you in this video what your character will look like when they are maxed out with all the gear, the better gear and everything. Spell resist is coming in at 973 and physical resist 17310. The reason why it's so offset is because you are a Dragonknight. They get 3,300 extra spell resist and no extra physical resist. You do want to use the Lord Mundustone, and here's why. To boost your max health, because if you're going to be tanking any dungeons, you're going to be taking on normal. So using the Lord to boost your max health is going to be better for you. The food that you can use, that I would suggest using, is the fortifying meals that drop from the Crown Store, from like the daily login rewards. You can also get them from chests, from the, like, if you watch the live streams and stuff, you can get chests from them, and you can get them from that as well. And that's a nice food to start with because it doesn't matter what level you are. It works at any level, and it gives you 4,000 health, magicka, and stamina, and that really boosts your resource pools. If you don't have access to this, get the food from the merchants. That's the one that's healthy, and get the one that's max stamina, because you'll use the healthy one when you're tanking and the stamina one when you're not tanking. Alright, moving on to equipment now and gear. Now I have two different setups in here. So the primary setup that we're going to be looking at is the gear that we're going to be running most of the time while we're progressing the character. So while you're progressing your character, every 10 levels you're going to want to get this. So the first 10 levels, you won't be using this stuff. You might be wearing one of the sets, but you won't be using both of these. So one of the sets that we run is called Ashen Grip. Now this is a 2-trait set. So it takes 2 traits learned in your crafting to be able to craft this. And as you can see, the 2-piece adds max health, 3-piece weapon damage, 4-piece weapon crit, 5-piece. When you deal direct damage, melee damage, you have a 10% chance to breathe fire to all enemies in front of you, dealing X amount of flame damage. This effect can occur once every 4 seconds. This is a nice starter set to have, okay? This will get you into higher levels. This will get you to better content and better gear. The next set we're running is called the Trainee set. Now, Trainee doesn't drop in Divines. It drops in Training. So all training sets, pieces, will drop in training except for the jewelry. Even the weapons have training on them. And what training does is it does this. It gives you increased experience gain from kills by 11%. So we're wearing a lot of training traits right now on our gear to maximize that capability so we can get that higher resistance or higher experience gain. Alright, so the trainee set itself, the 2-piece, has max health. On the 2-piece, the 3-piece is max magicka, the 4-piece is max stamina, and the 5-piece increases your max magicka, health, and stamina by 1250. That's a lot of resources to have right out the get-go. Now, to get this set, and I want to go over this because we are running this on the jewelry and the chest and legs. Now, the other pieces here, as you can see, we have the gloves, the shoulders, the helm, the belt, and the boots of Ashen Grip. So we craft this stuff, we equip this, and then we get the jewelry and the training. Now, when you do the jewelry, the best way to get it is one of them healthy, one of them robust, and one of them arcane. The reason why, this gives you a broader spectrum of resources. So it gives you health, magicka, and stamina. Now, when you do the enchants on the body, the way I do it is I do a magicka enchant on the helm, a health enchant on the body, and a magicka or a stamina enchant on the legs. And then on the smaller pieces, the shoulders and belt, I do max magicka. The gloves and boots, I do max stamina. Now, you can use any kind of enchant you want. You can even use white enchants while you're doing this. This is just to help you get through content. Okay? By the time you get to closer to 50, what happens is your character is boosted from level 1 to 35. You get extra stats, you get extra weapon damage, extra recovery rate, everything. So your character is more qualified in that 1 to 35 range to be more effective. When you hit 35, you do not get those benefits anymore, and all your benefits come from your traits, your enchants, your Mundus Stone, and your food. So that's why we run the trainee set. Now, to get this set, the best way to get it is to go here to Aradon on the world map, and I'm going to show you where this is. This is the weird looking island off the coast here. It's called Aradon. You're going to want to go here. You're going to want to go to the town of Volkengard. And then when you get here, you're going to want to go down to the waterfront, to the docks, and you're going to want to talk to the boatswain Sugarclaws. And they're going to take you to an island called Canarthy's Roost. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go to Canarthy's Roost so I can show you why you're going here. Because you're going to go to this island to farm this set. The set of trainee. Because you can get this set with ease here if you know the layout of the land. Now, this island, it is just one island, and this is the starter island for the Aldemary Dominion. They get one starting area. Daggerfall and Ebonheart both get 2 areas, and so they don't have as many chests to farm, but I'm going to show you this. So there is one chest as soon as you get here. If you go down the beach, and I'm going to go ahead and jump on a horse. I do have it maxed out, so I apologize for that. There'll be another chest, usually right here behind this crate. Down the beach here, there'll be another chest right next to this anchor. And then around the bend here, there's another chest right there. You can see it right in front of me. And then across the way, there's a chest at the mud crabs. There's one across, what you'll do is you go across, or not the mud crabs, the skeevers. You'll kill the 2 skeevers, get the chest, swim around this way. And I'm going to do the full run so you guys can see. Now, also nice thing about Argonians, they get 50% swim speed, so it's awesome for farming this island. There'll also be a chest here. And I'm going to take you through the whole run, like I said, the whole run of the island. There's a chest here. And I know where every chest is. I have an idyllic memory. So it allows me to memorize things without using anything. I just memorize it. There's a chest here. Right here in front of this log. There's another chest right behind these stone rocks. Usually there can be. Yep, it's there. And the chests you're primarily looking for are advanced and master's chests. The reason for that is you're going to get better quality gear from those. As you progress in the game, eventually you'll be getting purple gear when you get closer to 50. And then there's a chest right there. Now on your way back, you're not going to go back to the beginning. You're going to go in a complete circle around this island, by the way. So on your way back, there's two ways you can do this. You can continue straight ahead, and you can have a chance of getting 2 more chests before you get the other ones. But there is a chest at the base of this big rock here, down in the water. You can see it right there. And there's usually a chest right around the corner here, right there. Now, when you're coming back up, do not go that way. Go this way. If you get those 2 chests. Go this way, go around this way, and right here in this little opening, right here, there will be usually a chest right here in the middle of this opening. Then you ride on through, you go into this area, and there will be a chest here on this in this section as well with right here. Then you can go on around this way, and there's over 100 chests on this island. Okay, I've counted them out, or no, 75 something. It's around 75, I think it is. There's like 100 if you get all of them, including the ones inland. So this one, there's one on that platform right there. Usually, there's one right down here, right where I'm standing, and I just rode past it. There is one around this corner behind this reed thing right there. And then there will be one right over here on the other side of this thing. Then you ride on, and you can grab this as well, these thieves' troves that you come across, because you can also get the rings from them and the weapons or the body pieces. There'll be a chest right here. And if you do it in this succession, in this order, you can actually get the chest spawns to respawn every time you come around. There'll also be a chest right where I'm standing. But you can get the chest to respawn as you're going around the island more effectively, and it'll just do them in order. It'll respawn them all in order, so you're not running out of chests to get. There's one on that boat over there. As you can see, it's on the back of that boat. And then this is what I call the long ride, because there's usually no chest between here and the back to where you were almost. But it's still a good way. You can also harvest materials doing this, getting materials for crafting while you're going back. Now there used to be a chest down here, but it's not there anymore. They got rid of it. I don't know why. And then sometimes on occasion, I don't know if it happens too often, but there'll be a chest behind this weed, or one down here with this thunderbug. And then there's always going to be one usually right there. See it right there? And then there'll be one usually somewhere around in this area, right over here. And then there's one sitting on this little platform right here. There is one right here. There will be one right here, usually. And you just go around. Like I said, you go around, you farm these chests. The reason you're going to do this chest farm is to get the training gear. And you can also make a decent amount of money. And you can also learn traits from deconstructing the items and researching the traits. So it's a really good way to also do that and work on your crafting as well. There's a chest here on the right next to this body usually. And on the inside of the island there's about 25 chests. So on the inside area of the island, but I don't know all their locations 100%. But basically you're just going to go in a big circle. And as you're going around, you're going to be getting all these chests. There's another chest right there. There's going to be one, usually, most of the time there is, behind one of these tents over here. It's usually that tent. There will be a chest right here. And then there's also a chest right on the other side here, usually right in between these two rocks. Yes, guys, I'm a freak. I'll admit it. But the reason I'm showing you this is just mainly for the person who is looking for help to get started. So if you learn this chest routine, there's another one here right where I'm standing next to that platinum seam, or any ore seam there. There's one underneath there, as you can see. There's going to be one on the back side of that boat right over there, right where the marker is at. Then there's one right there. You can see it right in front of me out on the edge of the island there. There's a little one. Then there's one on that island right there. And then we're going to go ahead and jump across this, and hopefully we don't have to swim. Oh, we do. Oh, well. There is a chest right there next to that palm tree. You can barely see it, but there is a chest over here. Now, you can also use this to make gold. You can also use this to farm these items, because these items do help you level really quick. They also help you with all 3 stat pools. So it allows you to use all 3 resources while you are progressing in the game. With this particular setup, though, we are primarily focused on stamina and health. You can build for both magic and stamina, and it's actually pretty powerful. And then there is this chest right here that's in between this log and this board. There is a chest right up there by that mast, as you can see. And then the next chest. And you guys, like I said, there's a lot of them. There is a chest right here. A chest right over there, as you can see. And there's also going to be a chest if you want to try and get it. Usually there is a chest right up here, right there, right back in behind this broken boat piece. And those are some of the chests you can get along the way. And then there is also a whole bunch more, because we gotta swim across. And what you're gonna do is, when you get that chest right over here, what I do is I grab this chest and then I just swim right across to this other side. And there's gonna be, in succession, there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 chests that you can get on this, just this one little island here, that are really easy to get. And they're not, now remember, not always are chests up. So you have to remember there's other people out here farming, just like you. There's going to be a chest here at the end of these wood planks in the water. There's going to be one in between these beams of wood and this rock. There's going to be one right around this corner, right here. I will have to fight some bad guys, so... And I will get to the skills here in a second that we use and why. Alright, so there's a chest back here, and then there's always a chest, usually always a chest, around this corner here, on the point right here in this area. Then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to jump right across the water. Do not try to go around like on land and stuff. Swim right through. The reason why, you just avoid a lot of fighting. Now we're going to get to an area where there's a possibility for 3 more chests. Usually they're always here. This one is always here. I never find anyone else that can find this chest. Oh, it's not here. But there's one right here on the end of this boat in the water. There's also one on the land over here, right there in that little cart that's broken. And then there's going to be one usually right over here in this water spot, as you can see. There's one right here. And then you're just going to jump right in the water and swim straight across. There is usually a chest, which you can see sticking out right there. In that wood piece there. And then you're going to go around this way. Do not go around the other way. Go this way, grab that chest. Then go around this way. And I'm giving away a big secret here, guys, because I don't tell people this secret all the time. And this is a crazy secret. But there's a chest right here. And then sometimes on occasion, there will be a chest up over there. Very rarely do I find it, though. It seems to be one of those really rare spawns, and it seems like it's always a master chest. Another place a chest will spawn is right underneath this beam. You can see it sitting there now. And then we are coming back to around the beginning of the island again, guys. So, where we started. Yeah. But we have several more chests to go. So now you're going to jump up here. And there is a reason why you're going to jump up here. This way you can see if both chests are up. Right now they are not. But there's usually a chest right here. Right next to these skeevers. And there will also be a chest usually right down here on the end of these antlers. Alright. So that's a lot of chests so far. Then there's also one right across the way here. It usually takes me like 2 round trips to get a full set of this stuff. Because you can never get exactly what you're looking for. But there'll be a chest right here. There's a chest out there on that little boat piece. You can see it sticking out. Then you'll swim from that bow piece. You'll swim over here to this peninsula. And you can see a chest right there in front of me on that crate. You can actually unlock this chest in the water. That's the best way to do it. Then run up this way, and on the other side of that skeever, usually there is another chest right here. But there will be a chest right here. Then you just go around this way, come up here. There's usually a chest right here. Come around this way. There's a chest always right there. Because nobody wants to mess with those 2 thunderbugs, but kill the 2 thunderbugs, get the chest, and move on. When you get around to this side, this is where things are going to slow down again. So there is a chest on the other side of that skeever, usually next to that big crate. Like I said, you have to do this in succession. If you don't, the chest won't spawn. So, but there will be one there. Because as you're clearing chests out, it spawns new chests. Just to let you guys know. It's the algorithm they use for it. Now, when you get around to this side, you will go to the other side of this crate here, and usually there is a chest right there, and then over here next to the shore, in this pile of rubbish, there will be a chest right here. And then you are back to the beginning, and you can do the run all over again. Alright, now that I've shown you guys the chest farm, on how you can get the training set and the Ashen Grip set you can craft, and it's in every starter location. So this one that I crafted was here, right here at the Magma Flow Overlook. In Aradon, I think Ashen Grip is like, it's either like underneath this back here, or it's over here, or it could be even back here, but I don't think it's that far in. Ashen Grip can be crafted here, and then in Glenumbra, there's also an Ashen Grip crafting station. So there's crafting stations for each of these. Now, the reason why you're going to get this stuff and you're going to build your character this way is because you're going to start working towards new stuff. Okay? Your gear is just the beginning. Now, these are optional. If you can't get these, you can move on to something else, but get the agility stuff. You can usually find people that are selling these pretty cheap on the guild traders, even lower level ones. And this will just, like, if you have the sword and shield, it's going to give you higher stamina, and this is going to give you higher stamina. So you're going to want to get the two-handed and the sword and shield. Same thing with a bow. Get a bow. Okay? Now, the traits on these are, you're going to want to get a sharpened main sword, an infused offhand, or an infused two-handed, and then a sturdy shield. Okay? Now, this sturdy shield, I did put a tri-stat enchant in. It doesn't matter what enchant's in here, but if you can get a tri-stat enchant to put in your shield, it's going to be more effective for you for when you swap bars. Because if you swap bars, what's going to happen is you're going to lose a chunk of resources. If you watch here, I'm going to lose a chunk of resources when I swap bars. And it's a small chunk with this. If it's something like a regular enchant, it's going to look like this. So if you have a health enchant in there, it's going to be 954. Magic is going to be 868, and so is stamina. And that's what's going to be on the shield. And that's a lot of resources you're going to lose. Okay. But you do want to get a sturdy shield. You can also use crafted items here too, just to give you a 2-piece bonus. That's it. And usually I go for stamina, so I can build up my stamina pool. Alright, so now that I've shown you that, I'm going to go over the skills real quick. For the class, I do unlock every ability. The reason why is because you can use these abilities when you're not tanking, or when you are tanking, or like when you're tanking, you're going to use certain skills. When you're not tanking, you're going to use other skills. But I do unlock every skill and ultimate ability and passive for the class. The reason why is so I can use them at any time I need them. When I move on to weapons, one-handed sword and shield and two-handed are our primary weapons we're going to use while we're tanking. We will use a two-handed and bow when we're not tanking. And we will use the same two-handed we have on the back bar on the front bar with a bow equipped. And we do learn the ultimate active abilities and passives for each one of these tools. The reason why is so you can take advantage of everything your character has. Now moving on to armor skills. Light armor, I do learn the top 3. Now here's why. Grace gives you a little bit of snare reduction, plus it gives you reduced sprint cost by 3%. Evocation gives you extra mag recovery and reduced magicka cost. It's very small, but it still reflects on your character in the long run. And then spell warding. This increases your spell resistance by 363 for having 1 piece of light armor equipped. Now medium armor, we do the same thing. We take dexterity. This increases your weapon critical by 328 for each piece of medium armor worn. We wear 1 piece of medium, 1 piece of light. And I guess I need to explain that. So I wear a medium helm with a light belt, and everything else is heavy. The reason for this is the light belt is your lowest, or the belt is your lowest resistance item. So getting this in light is going to be more effective for you if you craft it. Now, your helm is going to be medium, and the reason you're going to use a medium helm is a medium helm actually gives you more resistances than a medium glove does. A heavy glove gives you better resistances than the medium helm. So it's like the two complement each other really well, and they give you a better amount of resistances. Because most people will do light and medium. And it works, but you don't get as much in resistances as you do with this. So this is why we'd run it that way. Now, going on with this, Windwalker gives you increased stamina recovery by 4% and reduced stamina cost. And then you get athletics, which increases your movement speed while sprinting by 3%, and then it reduces your dodge roll cost by 4%. This stuff doesn't play into your character until you get champion points. And we will be doing those too. Heavy armor, we do want to get all the heavy armor passives. Now you can unlock the active ability if you want and pick the one that's going to best, suit you in whatever situation you might want to use it in. Like I like to use Unstoppable for when I'm playing... or not Unstoppable, Immovable for when I'm playing the PvP stuff. So this way I can use this, and this one reduces my break free cost, and it also grants me immunity to knockback and disabling effects for 4 seconds. World skills, soul magic, I do take these when I unlock them, all of them eventually, but I primarily would suggest taking soul summons and soul lock. Now the way you get these skills is you have to play through what's called the Harborage quest line. This is a quest you get after you go through the base. It's part of the base game, but you have to get this quest called the Hooded Figure. You play the Hooded Figure, it's going to take you through this quest line that eventually is going to lead you to this called the Harborage. Don't play through it right away. Save it for the very last thing you do after you complete Cold Harbor. So you're going to play through your faction storyline, Cold Harbor, then the Harborage quest. The reason for that is when you play through the Harborage quest in the end, you actually get a lot of experience from it that you can put towards skill unlocking and things like that. So I usually save it. Guild skills. Now I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Fighter's Guild is probably the fastest skill line you will level out of all of them, because this one you just have to kill undead, Daedra, and werewolves. So while you're playing through the base game, through the content, and you're doing the delves, you're doing public dungeons, you're doing maybe even dungeons, you will be fighting a lot of undead, Daedra, and werewolves. But make sure you get the quest in the starter towns to get the guild skill line. You're going to want to unlock all the active abilities and passives and ultimate for this. And that this is all for long-term play. Same thing with Mages Guild and Psijic Order. Now, when you get further down, we're going to skip Undaunted for now, move on to Alliance War. You can start doing Alliance War stuff at any time. Alliance War is going to give you some abilities you can use in PvE and some you can use in PvP. Now, most of these can be used in either area except for mainly 3. So on the support side, Barrier, Purge, and Guard can be used in PvE. These other ones can be, but they don't work that effectively. And the same thing over here, like Rapid Movement Maneuvers is good if you want to move around really quick in PvE. But this one, Magic Detonation, is okay. I will say that in PvE. But these two and this one are primarily used in PvE. Now, when it comes to your racials, make sure you unlock all your racials, especially for the Argonian. They get some really cool racials, especially things like this, where when they drink a potion, they get max health, magic, and stamina back of 4,000, and it doesn't matter the potion type. They will always get 4,000 of each resource back. On top of that, your max magicka. Really nice. This gives you extra health and disease resistance and disease immunity to disease status effect, and then your life mender increases your healing done by 6%. This helps you when you're a tank because any heal you cast is 6% stronger. Not only for you, but your allies as well. Alright, now I'm going to go over 2 crafting skills too, passive. So, Alchemy, Medicinal Use. This is good for when you're playing in dungeons, using potions to help you effectively play. Like playing a tank, you're going to use what's called a tripod, and it's one that gives you health, magic, and stamina resources back, a lot of them. And then on top of that, it's going to give you health recovery, mag recovery, and stam recovery by 20%. So those 3 resources plus the 3 recovery rates. It makes it really effective for you when you're tanking. Now, Provisioning also has Gourmand and Connoisseur. Both of these will add 20 minutes to the duration of your food and your drink. Now, if this character is the only character you have, you will have a lot of crafting skills that you're going to learn. Okay? But primarily blacksmithing and clothing are the 2 you're going to want to stick with, because you're going to be using dropped items from other stats. But tailoring and tannin expertise plus blacksmithing, metalworking, and temper expertise are the ones you're going to want to learn the most. These other ones are useful but really not needed when it comes to just crafting, because these will allow you to use the highest crafting material, and these will allow you to use better or reduce the use of your tempers to double the strength of your items. So, and that's why all this guy's gear is gold color, is because I got all that stuff maxed out. Alright, so now that I've shown you that, we are going to go over the skills I have on my bar for tanking. So tanking skills, we use Pierce Armor. Now, the reason for Pierce Armor is it does damage up front, it taunts the enemy for 15 seconds, it also applies Major Fracture and Major Breach. This reduces their movement speed, or not their movement speed, their resistances by 5,280, both physical and spell. Next up, we have Heroic Slash. This does damage. It also reduces movement speed by 4%, and it does apply Minor Maim, but it also gives you Minor Heroism, increasing your ultimate gen by 1 every 1.5 seconds for 9 seconds. The other thing that you have to understand about the class is your passives. When you use certain active abilities, it will proc passive abilities. So, for example, when you activate Igneous Shield, which is your damage shield, and this is your primary damage shield you are going to use all the time. Okay, so you're going to be popping this a lot. One of the reasons why you're going to be popping this is not just for the 5,000 point damage shield and the major mending, but also for Mountain's Blessing. So when you're in combat, when you activate an ability like this, and it's actually whenever you're in combat, you also generate 3 ultimate, and this effect can occur once every 6 seconds. You don't have to activate your Earth and Heart ability, you just have to have one on your bar. Okay, I'm going to let you guys in on the secret. Mountain's Blessing is when you cast an Earth and Heart ability, you give the group minor brutality, increasing weapon damage by 10%. This is going to be good for you and your group. Alright, Next ability we have is called Cinder Storm. Now, I like to use Cinder Storm because this does do a heal over time, but it's an 18-second heal, and it stays in this whole circle area. So you can keep this up pretty much all the time, and it's going to give you a decent amount of health. So, it's really up to you. And then if you use your Igneous Shield, any ticking heal goes up for two ticks, I think it is. So you can get 2 ticks healing at a higher rate, or 3. And if it crit heals, it heals for a decent amount. So I like to use this to help support my group and stuff. And Cinder Storm just does that. It does a heal, but it also reduces movement speed of enemies walking through it by 70%. Next one is called Absorb Magic. Now this one you can activate to give you a small, like, Magicka damage shield, and it'll protect you from X amount of damage from the next spell projectile cast to you and heal you for 15% of your health. But while slotted, or while you have a shield equipped and this ability slotted, the amount of damage you can block is increased by 8%, and the amount of the cost of blocking is reduced by 8%. The other thing is that being a Dragonknight, you get Iron Skin, which increases the amount of damage you can block by 10%. So you actually get 18% between the two, and with the Sword and Shield passive, Fortress, I believe. Nope, it is Sword and Board. This allows you to block 20% of the damage. So you actually block 38% of the incoming damage off the top before your resistances kick in and reduce the damage more, and then your damage reduction reduces it even more. Alright, moving on to the next ability, and this is what we call a floater ability. So you don't have to use this ability, you can also use Shield Discipline here, but it's our ultimate, and Corrosive Armor is really good. This one will basically imbue you, oxidize the green blood, dragon blood in your veins, limiting incoming damage by 3% of your max health, and dealing X amount of poison damage to nearby enemies for 12 seconds. While active, your attacks ignore all physical resistance. So you can just basically rip right through their armor and do max damage. It's really nice. And it does last for 12 seconds. Now the other one is called Shield Discipline, and basically when you activate this, what's going to happen is you're going to auto block for 7 seconds without using any stamina to block, by the way, or other stuff. It automatically blocks all incoming attacks for 7 seconds, and it reduces the cost of all your sword and shield abilities by 100%. So that means your Pierce Armor, Heroic Slash, and this ability are all pretty much free. So that's another good ability to use. On the back bar, we are using a two-handed sword. And the reason for this is because of one ability called Carve. Now this will apply a damage up front and damage over time for 10 seconds. Now as this is happening, you're also going to be applying a Crusher Enchant. Now it'll apply to the main target you hit. So they will get negative debuffs on their resistances, because we are running a Crusher Enchant. This will put 2,108 reduced physical and spell resistance for the duration of 5 seconds. Now once that since this weapon is infused, what happens is it lasts for 5 seconds, but at 3 seconds it can be reapplied. Now remember, this lasts 10 seconds, the bleed does. So that bleed lasts 10 seconds. So within that first 3 seconds, it's going to reapply again for 5. Another 3 seconds is going to reapply for 5. Another 3 seconds is going to reapply for 5. So by the time it gets to the 9-second range, 1 second away, it's going to have applied this 3 times for 3 seconds each. So at 9 seconds, you're going to get an extra 5 seconds on top of that. So 14 seconds in total for this activation. So that gives you time to work off the front bar, the back bar, and swap back and forth. Alright, moving on to the next ability. We have Choking Talons. Now this is a really good ability. It does apply minor maim to every target it grabs, but basically it makes these talons come up out of the ground and grab the enemy. It deals X amount of magic damage, immobilizes them for 4 seconds, and also applies minor maim to them for 7 seconds, reducing their damage done by 15%. An ally can activate the Ignite synergy, which will deal X amount of magic damage to all enemies held within them. Next ability we have is called Unrelenting Grip. This is to chain enemies to you, and basically you shoot a chain out, you grab an enemy, you pull it to you. It reduces their movement speed by 30%. Now remember, if you have this up, this 30%, that 30% gets applied first, and then the 70%. So it'll take 30% off their movement speed first, then it'll take whatever's left over and 70% of that. So these guys are basically put to a standstill within this because of this. Now they do move, but they move really slow. And this lasts for 4 seconds, and if the target cannot be pulled, you restore 100% of the ability's cost. The ability cannot be reflected or dodged, and it does deal flame damage on impact. The next ability we have is a floater, another floater ability. We have Flames of Oblivion. Now this one increases your spell and weapon crit while it's slotted, and the ability scales off your highest offensive stats. So in this case, our max stamina, because that's our highest stat, and what it does is it launches 2 fireballs at 2 enemies every 5 seconds, dealing X amount of flame damage to those enemies. It's a nice way to add a little extra damage. The next ability we have on our bar is called Hardened Armor. Now this is going to give you your Major Warden Made Resolve, increasing spell and physical resist by 5,280 for 20 seconds. And you gain a small damage shield that absorbs up to 3,807 damage for 6 seconds. And it does scale off your max health. And then while active, your armor returns X amount of magic damage to the enemy that uses direct damage attacks against you. So really good. Last ability we have here is Standard of Might. And this is going to be one you're going to be using a lot of, because it does do damage every second for 18 seconds. It also applies Major Defile on the enemy, reducing their healing and health recovery by 30%. But standing in the area increases your damage done by 15% and reduces the damage you take by 15%. An ally near the standard can activate the Shackle Synergy, which deals X amount of flame damage to all enemies in the area and immobilizes them for 5 seconds. And if they activate the Synergy, it doesn't take this away. It actually stays for the duration. The Synergy just can't be activated again for another 20 seconds. So, really nice, especially that 15% damage reduction. Alright, now that I've done that, we're going to talk about what you're going to build for, or build to become, okay? So one of the things that a lot of people ask me, especially new players, is, okay, if this is how I'm going to start my character, what am I working towards? Well, the first thing you're going to work towards is called champion points. So you're going to work to get to level 50, and that's where you unlock this. And this is called the champion point system. Now, the champion point system, or the champion level system, what it is there's 3 different trees. There's the red tree, or otherwise known as the warrior tree, and there's 3 different ones in here. There's the steed, the lady, and the lord. In the green tree, also known as the thief tree, is the tower, the lover, and the shadow. And then the blue tree is the mage tree, and there's 3 of them: apprentice, atronach, and ritual. And these all do different things. So the warrior tree is all about mitigating damage. Everything in here pretty much helps you mitigate damage to some degree. It either increases your resistances, applies more strength to your shield strength, gives you higher damage reduction, all kinds of different stuff. So you're going to want to start building towards getting this unlocked. And that unlocks as soon as you hit 50. As soon as you hit 50, in fact, you get 10 levels of champion points, or champion levels, right out the door. So you'll get 10 points right out the door. But what you're working towards is to get to what's called champion level 160. And the reason why is the best gear in the game that you can get is champion level 160 gear. And the gear you're going to be working towards is a different gear setup than this. Now I'm going to go ahead and equip this other gear, and I'll go over it a little, explaining why you're going to want to use this set, these sets, and these monster sets, and all that. So that way you get a greater understanding of why, and why you're going to want to use the traits and enchants as well. Now you're going to see a little difference here with our stuff in how things work, and I want to make sure I got this 100%. I need to get the rest of my Hunting's Rage equipped. Make sure I got it all equipped. There we go. This is what my character looks like now. Now if you look, my character goes to 29k max health, 16k magic, and 24k stamina. And this is with this setup, okay? So with this setup, you're going to want to use what's called tri-stats on your helm, your chest, and your legs. And this is going to basically give you all 3 resources in health, magic, and stamina. You're also going to want to use a sturdy legs and sturdy helm, because your other pieces are going to be divines for when you're playing this character not as a tank. Okay? When you're not playing this character as a tank, you're going to be using this two-handed sword on the front bar and a bow on the back bar, and your skills are even going to change, and your where you have your attribute points will change, and we'll get to that in a second. But the next thing I want to show you is the Undaunted skill line. The Undaunted skill line is gotten from doing dungeons. Now you can do dungeons either through this by hitting P on your keyboard and it opens up your group finder, and you can do the dungeons here. Your best bet is to do them on normal. Start with Fungal Grotto 1, work your way all the way down to what's called Vaults of Madness. Do every single one of these and play through the stories of these dungeons. Every story you complete gives you a skill point, and on top of that it gives you extra, it gives you what's called Undaunted Xp. Undaunted XP will unlock, by the time you get to Vaults of Madness, you will unlock everything you need for the Undaunted skill line, which is maximum rank of 9. To get to 10 is just extra, okay? But what happens is you get to 9, and you'll be able to unlock the passives, Undaunted Command and Undaunted Mettle. Now this one, when you unlock it, it increases your resource return from synergies. Every one of the active abilities in the Undaunted skill line is a synergy. So all these come in handy when you're playing in group play, like Dungeons and Trials, or even in some cases PvP. The next one is called Undaunted Mettle. Now, if you notice, I told you to have one light, one medium piece of armor. This also has that same setup. You're wearing the medium helm from the monster set, and we're wearing a light belt. And with it, we will get 3% increase to our stats with 1 point in here. So this means our magicka, health, and stamina just increased by 3%. When you put 2 points in here, you will get 6% of your max stats. So your stats will look like this then. 17k max magicka, 30k health, 26k max stamina. And this is before you even get champion points. So I'm going to go over the gear, this setup, so you can see. So this monster set I chose for this is Cillatrix. Cillatrix is actually a really good set for a tank to use. The reason why is because you're not going to be doing a lot of damage. So this is going to help amplify your ability to do damage while you're in dungeons and even in trials. Now this is just to get you started, okay? This isn't to be at in-game max super god. This is just to get you started. But this set gives you on a 1-piece max stam, 2-piece, when you deal damage you have a 10% chance to create an earthquake under the enemy that erupts after 1.5 seconds, dealing X amount of physical damage to all enemies within 4 meters and stunning them for 3 seconds. This effect can occur once every 5.5 seconds. So what it means is anytime you deal damage, you have a 10% chance to create this earthquake underneath the enemy. And when it happens, let me go find an Atlas real quick, and we will battle it so I can get it to proc. And procking means to make it activate. So when I'm fighting this guy, you'll see, or even sometimes hear it, but it'll make like an earth rumbling sound. Really? You're not going to do it? Oh, you turd. I'm going to try and get it to proc. There we go. See it? Boom. And it just went off. And it does a lot of damage to the enemy. Now this damage cannot crit. The monster set cannot crit. Neither can any body sets or gear sets. They cannot actually crit on activation. So the reason for this Cillatrix though is because it does do extra damage. Okay? Now the reason for Hunting's Rage, which is the other set we're running, we are running this, and as you can see, the 2-piece adds weapon critical, 3-piece max stam, 4-piece weapon critical, 5-piece weapon damage. This is to maximize our weapon damage output for when we're playing a tank, but also while we're playing, also some of the skills we might use that are affected by weapon damage. So that means like Vigor from the assault skill line, caltrops, a lot of things that are stamina based and weapon damage affected. We want that higher weapon damage for. And this also with the max stamina helps out with along with the max stam from this. Now moving on to the next set. The next set we're running is called Plague Doctors. Now Plague Doctors is a really powerful set for tanks because it gives you a ton of health. As you can see, the 2-piece adds max health, 3-piece max health, 4-piece healing taken, and the 5-piece 4,000 max health. So you get a lot of max health out of this. When you add it with all the enchants that we're running, which I'm going to go over now. So on the monster set, we are running a Sturdy trait. This allows you to block 4% extra damage. We're also running Sturdy on the legs to get another 4%. That's 8% reduced cost in blocking. When you add in all the other block cost reductions and everything that we are going to have, plus the Sturdy shield, that's a 12% reduced block cost reduction, and then you add 8% on top of it for the skill we have active. That's a 20% reduced cost. So we actually have a 56% reduced cost in blocking. That saves us a ton of resources so we can block more effectively. You will learn how to block in the game, and you aren't going to be sitting there doing this all the time. You're going to learn to block specific abilities, and it's going to become muscle memory that you will just be doing this, and you wouldn't even realize it while you're fighting. All right. So moving on to the other stuff. So the reason for the tri-stats on the head, chest, and legs is this way to maximize all 3 resource pools: Magicka, Health, and Stamina. This character can technically play a damage dealer, a tank, and a healer with this setup. But to play a healer, you have to equip a Resto Staff. That means you can use the Sword and Board in one bar, Resto Staff in the other. You can play an effective healer that way, or you can even use two-handed with a Resto Staff. Your choice. But some advice: learn your character first before you try playing other roles. Next up, onto the smaller pieces. We are using what are called Divine's Enchant, or traits. Divine traits increase Mundus Stone effects. Now remember, we're using the Lord Mundus Stone right now to increase our max health. We don't need to worry too much about our max resistance, because when we activate our buff, our resistance buff, our resistances go to 26, 23, and this is unbuffed from CP. This is just flat resistance, okay? So we're still really good there. So we use Divines in these to increase our Mundus Stone effectiveness. We're also using 2 max Stamina, or max Magicka in the shoulder and the belt. The reason why, to boost our Magicka pool, to give us more resources in Magicka, so we can effectively use both Magicka and Stamina. Now moving on to the belt, boots, and gloves, we are running 2 max Stamina. This is so we can effectively use more Stamina abilities and get greater Stamina pools. Do not use tri-stats here. Use large resource stats like this. Now another thing you can do is you can put a healthy here and a healthy here, and then run a Magicka Stamina combo if you want, so you get more health out of your character. That's something you can do. But I like this setup personally because I like getting the higher Magicka and Stamina. You can also put 2 Stamina or 4 Stamina in here as well. It's really up to you on how you want to do it, because you haven't seen what happens when we put CP into the character. So, now going over the jewelry. The jewelry, if you have the Clockwork City DLC or are paying a paid subscriber, you can get this done. You will want to get this done. Turn these 2 into Tri-Rune. This will give you more health, magic, and stamina to your character, so they have that better hybridization, but you also have that more max health, magic, and stamina, so you can utilize those resources more effectively. Now on each of these pieces of jewelry, we have a spell damage enchant and a weapon damage enchant. This is to increase our max weapon damage and spell damage for when we're playing damage dealer or tank. On top of that, we are using an infused necklace with a magic recovery. Now on these training ones, I do have the same setup where I have the infused, or I have a healthy necklace with mag recovery, and then on the rings I have a spell damage and weapon damage. You can do that on those as well. Now moving on to the shield, we are using a sturdy shield with a tri-stat enchant, and that is primarily when we're tanking. We get those higher resource pools on the sword and shield side, but when we swap bars, we lose that, but we still gain the benefits of what stats we do have. So on the front bar weapon, we are using a sharpened Plague Doctor sword with absorbs stamina enchant. This is going to help you effectively keep your stamina coming in, because while you're activating some of your class abilities for the Earth and Heart, like Igneous Shield and the Cinder Storm, you will also be getting called Helping Hands. When you cast an Earth and Heart ability, you restore 990 stamina. So remember, these are Magicka-based abilities, so you're going to be getting stamina, 990 stamina back whenever you do that. On top of that, every 5 seconds, you're going to be getting 177 extra stamina, plus the stamina from your stuff here, the 534. Okay? Now, with that, we are going to move on to the back bar, where we have a two-handed sword infused with Crusher. Now, I already explained the Crusher enchant and infuse thing, but I'll go over it again. Crusher basically reduces the enemy's physical and spell resistance by 2108 for 5 seconds. Now, because we are using an infused weapon, it increases the weapon's enchant effect by 30% and reduces the enchantment cooldown by 50%. So what happens is that 5-second cooldown now becomes a 3-second cooldown. That 30% enchant effect means it's getting more effective. So normally this is like 1,000 something, and now it goes to 2,108. So it actually gives you more penetration value and more effectively applied. And we still use that carve skill to do it. And if you notice, I just changed the gear. I haven't even changed the skills, because there's no reason to change the skills unless you do this. When you want to play damage dealer, equip a bow on the back bar and equip your two-handed onto the front bar. The reason for this is this way you can maximize your damage output more effectively with the bow on the back bar, because you're using an infused weapon damage enchant. What this does is this increases your weapon and spell damage by 452 for 5 seconds. And just like with the carve on the back bar, we're going to be using an ability on the back on this that's going to keep that enchant applied to us, so we get that higher weapon and spell damage every second. So that way we can use both Magicka and stamina abilities. But the reason why we switch to these set combinations is this is a more effective setup for you to play either as a tank or a damage dealer. So, and what you do is you basically adjust your skills to the skills you want to use in two-handed on the front bar, with bow skills on the back bar, and then some of your other class skills mixed in, and that's how you play it. Now, let's talk about CP, because I've already gone over the different trees, but I haven't told you the benefits of each tree. See, when you put a total of 100 points into the red tree, you get 20% more health. When you put 20 points or 100 points in here, you get 100% or 20% more stamina. When you put 100 points into the blue tree, you get 20% more Magicka. So your whole purpose of your character is to build your character out over a long period of time. So even with this character having all this gold gear, they're still not maximized. They're still not at their maximum proficiency level or capable level. So this having gold gear just means that the quality of the gear is at its maximum. Okay? The CP level of it is at its maximum. But we haven't, like I said, we haven't done our Undaunted yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I do my Undaunted. Or how I did my Undaunted as I was leveling. So the things I focused on when I was leveling through my champion levels, and there's 810 levels, okay? And they go by pretty quick until you get about 600. And then it starts dying, it tapers off, and it starts taking longer and longer. But getting to 600 is really easy from what I'm to understand. So, the thing you're going to want to focus on is Hardy and Elemental Defender. This is going to increase or reduce your damage taken from physical, poison, disease damage, and flame, frost, shock, and magic damage. That means any damage type of those types. So you want to focus on these first. So usually what I do is I build these up until I'm at about 43 points in each one. Once I get 43 points in each of these, excuse me, then I like to put into what's called Ironclad. And Ironclad reduces the direct damage you take by a percentage value. Now, the other thing you have to remember is when you put points in here, like that, say that, 10 points, it takes you to 4.78%. It is not 4.78%, it is only 4%. any point that it takes, any points it takes to go between, say 4% and 5%, is called jump points. And that's how many points it takes to get to that next percentage value. So you're going to want to work on getting your character to this value eventually on the Ironclad, okay, 56. On the Thick Skin, you're going to want to get this up to about 31. Then you're going to want to work on this over here called Bastion. Actually, I'd probably work on Quick Recovery first, and I would get this to 19. 19 Quick Recovery is going to increase your healing received by 5%. Now this stacks with the 8% you get from wearing heavy armor, so that 8% now becomes 13% healing received. That's a much higher value of healing received. Next is Bastion, and this increases the effectiveness of your damage shields by a percentage value. We only go up to 40 here, and this increases your value of your shields by 16%. Starting over here, and this is where things are going to get a little weird, because we have a thing called Spell Shield, which increases your spell resistance by a certain flat value. So every point you put in here will increase in value up to a total of 5,280. But we're not going to put that many points in here. We're not putting any points in here because we're a Dragon Knight. Dragon Knights don't need this. Now, if you're playing any other class, you will, besides a Templar and a Dragon Knight, you will want to put into here. But instead, we're going to take these last 38 points we have, and we're going to put them right into here to give us 3,250 physical resistance while wearing 5 or more pieces of heavy armor. Now, I'm going to back out of here so you can see what this looks like. So now I have 35k health. I don't even have nothing in health. Everything's in my stamina. And with that, look at my resistances now. 22,916 spell resist, 22,503 physical resist. So when I use my buff, I go to 2827. That's a much higher pool for resistances and survivability. Okay, now another thing you need to know about CP is when you fill in the points here, once you reach 10 points, you're going to start unlocking these. These are passive benefits. So when you bash an enemy with this, you have a 20% chance to heal yourself for 1900 health. And bashing is this, holding block and pressing attack. So now I can get 1900 health on 20% chance when I do that. And that gives me a greater survivable pool. Alright, on top of that, we also will unlock phase. So when you roll dodge, you'll gain 660 physical and spell resistance for 3 seconds. So when you do this, you can go in here and you'll see that you go up in resistance. And if you do it right with this, and then you roll dodge, you go up to 2828. So you actually get more resistances out of your character for a few seconds. And that little bit of resistances, a lot of people are like, oh, that's not much. That's 1 point of mitigation. And right now your character's sitting at 47% mitigation from all damage types. That means incoming damage, 47% removed when you're buffed up. Alright, so now, going over that stuff, make sure that you fill this out in that order. So you're going to start with Hardy Elemental Defender, then you're going to do Ironclad, then you're going to do Thick Skin, then you're going to do Quick Recovery, then Bastion, and then Heavy Armor Focus. The other nice thing about Bastion is this. Remember your damage shield you had earlier? How small it was? Now it goes to 8,880 on that one. You remember the other one was 3,800 and something? This one goes to 6,331 damage. So when you do your damage shield here, you get a 6k shield. When you do this one, together you get 15k damage shield. That means those shields will absorb 15,000 damage based on your resistance level. So that's a lot of damage mitigation right there. And when you activate this first to get the shield, and then you do the other one, what's going to happen is it's going to break through that 6,000 shield first before it gets to the 8,000 shield. Because it does break down shields in succession. So it's a very good benefit to have this. And on top of that, you also give shields to your allies. And your shields to your allies are going to be 3,551. So that's also a nice benefit. Now moving on to the green tree. On the green tree, I like to start with my tank right here in Shadow Ward. And I like to get this up to about 40 points. And the reason why, because I'm going to get 16% block cost reduction. Now remember what I was talking about earlier? We have the 3 sturdy items, and that's 12% block cost reduction. This is 16, and then we get another 8 from the other thing. So that's 20% reduced cost in blocking, plus another 36, plus another 16. So our block cost reduction is over 70 something percent. It's ridiculous. That's more than enough reduction in blocking. The next thing I put into is this right here. It's called Tenacity. And I take this up to 43 with this type of setup. So this way I can get more stamina magicka back for my heavy attacks. Since we are primarily a stamina user, when we do our heavy attacks, we're going to get more resources back. So when we hit these guys, we're going to get like roughly about 2,700 with our sword and shield back in resources. With our two-handed, we're going to get almost 4K back. And that's because of our heavy armor passive called Revitalize. When wearing 5 or more pieces of heavy armor equipped, increase the magic and stamina of your heavy attacks return by 25%. The baseline is 30. So 30 plus 25 is 65. 65 plus 10 or 55. And then add 10 is 65. So you actually get 65% increase return of resources when you heavy attack. The next area I start focusing on is this right here. It's called Mooncalf, and I will take this up to 75 points. The reason why this increases my stam recovery by 14%. I don't have a lot of stam recovery except for 4 from my heavy armor or from my medium armor. With this 14%, that takes me to 18% stam recovery. That's almost 20%. On top of that, the next area I go to is over here, and I start putting into Warlord to reduce my break free cost. I take this up to 40. Then I put into Sprinter, 16. Then I go over here, and I put into Tumbling, and I take this up to 40. My last 16 points, I put into Bashing Focus. The reason why this saves me resources all around. So now I'm going to show you what my character looks like now. Now I have a 35k max health, a 31k stamina, unbuffed, like with just food, okay? No extra special benefits. This is just my CP and Undaunted. This is what happens. And I haven't even done my magicka yet. And remember, that's 64 points in the stamina. I have more than enough health to tank with. Okay, now that I've done the stamina stuff, remember, every time you put points into here, you will unlock these perks above. And each of these perks do different things for you. Now we're going to move into the blue tree. And in the blue tree, because of the way we play this character, we're going to play what's called a hybridized build. So the first thing you're going to want to focus on, in my opinion, would be Blessed. Put 43 points into here. This way you boost your healing done by 10%. Now remember, you're an Argonian. You get another 6% healing done for all heals. So that's a 16% increase. Now, we're going to go over here to the middle tree, and we're going to put into what's called Physical Weapon Expert. We're going to take this up to 35. Now, the reason why is this is going to increase all your light and heavy attack damage with your one-handed sword and shield, your two-handed, and your bow by 20%. By putting 35 points in here, you also unlock what's called Reposit. This means anytime you block a physical attack, you have a 15% chance to deal X amount of damage back to the enemy every 5 seconds that you block an attack. So we're going to do that. The next one you're going to put into is called Master at Arms. You're going to take this up to 40 points. Now this is going to increase your direct damage done, which means your light and heavy attacks again by 16%, but it's also going to unlock Butcher, which is going to increase your damage to enemies below 25% health by 5%. After this, you're going to go over here, and you are going to put into Precise Strikes. You're going to take this up to 20. And this will increase your critical damage and critical healing with stamina abilities by 9%. You're going to go back over here. You're going to do the same thing in Elfborn, but with Elfborn, you're going to take it to 23. you're going to get 10% out of it. Okay? Then you're going to move into what's called Elemental or Mighty. And this is, you're going to take it to 43. And then you're going to go back and you're going to put 43 into Elemental Expert. Now you're going to see you have 23 points left. So what you actually want to do is take this up to 3, so you get to 10%, and you're going to put the last 20 into here. And that's where you're going to stop. Now what happens is you get Perfect Strike, which increases critical by 9%, and then over here you get Vengeance, or Spell Precision, which increases spell critical by 9%. You also get these other nice and nifty perks, which help out in the long run. So we're going to confirm this, and we have all of our points spent now. Now we have a 31k max stamina, 35k health, with a 20k max magicka. Our stamina recovery is coming, our mag recovery is coming in at 815 now, 370 health recovery with 606 stamina recovery, and as you can see, our weapon damage is 1509 and 1898. Now this is once you have your character completely maxed out with CP, okay? And this is all suggestion. You do not have to follow this, this just helps. Now I'm going to show you what this character looks like when you're playing them, not as a tank, but as a damage dealer now. I'm going to readjust some things. I'm going to switch to the bow on the back bar and two-handed on the front bar, and then I'm going to switch up my skills to be more damage orientated, so you can see what it looks like to play this character as a damage dealer. And if you can get the Finder skill ability, Flawless Dawnbreaker, put it on your front bar for when you're playing damage. It really helps. On your back bar, since you're using a bow, this and Arrow Barrage are really good. And then another ability that you can put back here, which is really nice, is the Fighter skill ability, Rearming Trap. You can put it right there. And then if you want to go a little nuts, you can take one or two options here. Now, I like to use the Earth and Heart ability, Igneous Weapons. This increases both weapon and spell damage. And then I kind of like to do something funny and use this thing called Scalding Ruin. Now, this thing does damage, okay, to enemies. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to teleport back to my house so I can show you what this thing really looks like as a damage dealer, because I'm actually going to change the Mundus Stone, and that's it. So your Mundus Stone, by the way, Mundus Stones are all over the world, and you can go to different locations and find these Mundus Stones. I'm also going to put a link in the description to the ESO Wiki, which has all this information where you can find Mundus Stones, crafting stuff, all that. And it's a really good tool to use. So the thing you got to understand about this is when you make your character into a damage dealer, when you're not tanking, all you're doing is changing a few things around. In this case, all you're changing is your Mundus Stone and the weapons you use and the skills you use. This is the other reason why I unlock so many skills on my bar, is so this way I can take advantage of all that stuff. So, sorry, the game has a bug and it drives me nuts. So the Mundus Stone I'm going to go with is called the Thief, and this is going to increase my crit chance and my critical chance, basically. So now you can see we have a 47% weapon critical with a 38% spell critical. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here, I'm going to beat up on this little guy, just so you can see what this thing's damage looks like when it's fully going crazy. So what we're going to do is we are going to activate our buff on the 5 skill, and just go through the rotation. And this is a rotation, by the way. This is where you use abilities with light attacks in succession with each other. And we did 21k roughly damage to this guy. Now 21,000 damage to some people isn't a lot. For a tank who doesn't have any benefits besides 3,444 weapon damage, 47% crit, 70% critical damage, and 7,380 physical penetration, that's actually really good damage. Because our Wrecking Blows were hitting up towards to 19k, our Flames of Oblivion 11k, our Noxious Breath was hitting for 10k up front, 3,000 over time, And don't ever read this. This is accurate, but it's also inaccurate. This is more accurate because your max and average damage is what you're truly doing on your hits. Your max damage is what you do on your maximum total amount of damage. Your average is what you do on an average amount of damage. Like, per hit, not per second. Because you don't do damage per second with most of your abilities. This takes 1 second to activate and 1 second to throw a light attack in between. So you're technically not doing that much damage per second, because this thing does it per hit. So, but yeah, 21k isn't bad when you're not using something like this. And this is called a warrior power pot or a stamina power pot. This increases your weapon damage and weapon critical. So now when we do this rotation, our damage is going to be higher. Well, it's usually higher. Because what happens is when we use that... Really? When we use that, it boosts our weapon damage, but it just boosted our weapon critical. As you can see, we went to 52% weapon crit, and on the back bar, we do have a 38% spell crit. And this is just to give you an idea of what the damage of this character can look like when you're playing. Now, you're not going to be playing like this in Overland, okay? Like fighting things with like 300 health. You're going to be fighting things with 1,000,008 health sometimes. And sometimes even higher if you're fighting dragons and elsewhere. And this build is more than fine and has the tools necessary to survive, deal damage, and play not only the damage dealer, but also a tank, if necessary. And that's the great thing about this build, is it can do all that stuff, and you can have fun doing it. And that's it for the build, guys. I hope it was helpful for the person who asked for it. If it was, then most of you know what's coming. Go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day. And this guy might see you in game. Bye.